Oh, well, hello there, DFS family. Welcome back to the Sunday School NFL DFS podcast, powered by Fantasy Six Pack. And that's hard for me to say because I've been doing the on deck circle for so damn long that I wasn't even sure if I was going to get it out correctly. But I am your host, Dave Eddy. I am the brains behind this operation. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Patrick Makowski, who is mostly here for his good looks.
True.
You can tell we've got a new format for this season, so we are recording this live via stream. So if you're watching us live, hello, thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching this on replay, what the fuck were you doing at 8 o'clock?
All right.
I guess that's really what I need to know. But we're glad you're joining us anyways. I'm also extraordinarily excited for the ladies tuning in. Because I'm sure that they're enjoying the hunk of meat on the right-hand side of me. My dear friend Patrick, how's it going, buddy?
Good, man. Excited. Another year of football. Great game last night to watch to open up the season.
Won me $1,000 on that bitch.
Yeah, well done for you, sir.
The double Gronkalicious.
Yeah, Gronk gotcha.
Oh, man.
But this is going to be fun for me. I'm excited. And as always, love doing these things with you. So,
absolutely, man. So, I mean, let's get right into it. Let's let your beauty and let's let my brains win the people a little bit of money, my man. So, not even intentionally here. We're starting off with 49ers and the Lions. So, it just happens to be the on how I look it up. Just happens to be the one that's at the top here. 49ers are 8-point favorites going into Detroit. Over under on this game, we've got a 46-point total. So that's right. It's a little bit on the low side. It's 9th highest out of 13 games on the slate. But the Niners are at a 27-point implied total. So that's the 4th highest out of 26 teams on the slate. So they're expected to put up some points. And our lowly, lovable Lions, implied point total of 19, absolutely dead last on the slate. So
wouldn't expect anything less from them.
No, should be fun there. So, I mean, for me, DFS wise here, I'm not targeting either team this week. If somebody is interested in, playing this game, I would advise you here to get a little bit contrarian and go after the passing game as opposed to what I think is going to be somewhat of a popular running game. Now, when I say that, there's not really one guy that I think is going to be like super chalky, but between Mostert and Sermon, I think there's going to be some decent ownership there. It's just going to be the trick of which one do you trust. Me, if I had to go with one, I would pick Mostert just because we've seen him be successful before in this offense. Sermon probably has the higher long-term upside, but week one, I think Mostert is where I'd be most confident. Not many people are going to be playing Jimmy G. He's definitely got, weapons to throw to. He's got Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, and they're projected to be one of the highest scoring teams of the week. So they're definitely going to score points, and those points have to come from somewhere. Easiest way to score in the NFL is throwing the ball. So I think that, their passing game should be pretty low owned outside of Kittle, and I think that could make for, a nice little leverage spot this week.
Yeah, Mostert, I think, is the play here in this game. He's $5,800. He's a solid RB1 in a run-first, offense against the worst team in football against the run last year. I think they're going to get out early, with the likes of, who you were talking. Jimmy G is going to be able to throw the ball to with Kittle and Debo and Ayuk. So they're going to eventually start pounding the rock. Mostert over 5.5 yards a carry for the last couple years in San Francisco. I'm hoping, he can get 15 touches. If he does, he's the guy that I'm going to be trusting in that game this weekend.
So to get away from just, the game by game real quick, what I will say about running backs, specifically like what I'm looking for in running backs is straight up I'm looking for volume, right? The matchup to me is very overrated. Volume is where it's at for me. Ideally I prefer an efficient back, but at the same time, I don't really care about a guy's, yards per carry, because I'm more worried about, like touchdowns, more worried about volume. But even touchdowns are extremely, volatile from the running game. So for me, it's straight up volume. Chris here says, Kittle, Mostert, and Debo, good for about one game. So, they've got injury history. So he makes a good point there. I saw somebody post on Twitter that at the Tigers game tonight, they saw somebody wearing a Jerry Rice jersey. And I had said the guy just simply by default wearing a Jerry Rice jersey would instantly become one of the top 3 wide receivers, on the Lions roster. So that, that's how poor they are. So, any one of these guys that's healthy, could obviously be in for a big game this week. So we'll see what happens there. Next up on the list, let's see, we got the Steelers traveling to Buffalo. Bills are 6.5 point favorites there. Over under 48.5. So that's 5th highest on the slate. Steelers have an implied point total of 21. Not so hot. That comes in 22nd out of 26 teams. And the Bills are way up there. Bills are 27.5. So the 3rd highest implied point total. Now, this is a game here where I will definitely be targeting the Bills. I think Josh Allen definitely has a chance to be QB1 this week. But I think he's also going to come in as probably the highest owned quarterback. Definitely top 3, though, for sure. And people might look, back to the numbers of the Pittsburgh's defense from last year and shy away a little bit, but that's definitely not going to be the case for me. He's got great stacking options, obviously led by, Stephon Diggs. Personally, I'm probably going to shy away from Diggs a little bit. I think he's obviously a great play, great stacking option, but he's going to be so damn chalky that I'm not sure how much I want to go over the field on him this week. So, I'm not going to be too shy to stack that, other ways. If you take down a GPP with them, you're going to have to get really funky elsewhere, just because if they play Allen, people are probably playing Diggs, as well. Now, I think the Steelers actually can make for a nice little play here as well. Now, I'm not going to be stacking Ben with any of his, wide receiver trio, Deontay, Chase, or Juju, but they do present, wonderful run back options, and you can certainly pick, wide receivers from this matchup as well to have a nice secondary stack to go along with whatever game stack you go for. As the 4th highest projected scoring game, 5th highest projected scoring game, just know that the guys, in this matchup are going to be very popular this week.
Yep, I agree with you on the Allen and Diggs stack. The hardest thing for me, as it is every time the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing, is which one of those 3 receivers is going to get the target share, from Big Ben. So I tend to just kind of stay away from them. That's something that I do. Unless one of them is hurt or 2 of them is hurt, and you really know which guy, he's going to lean towards. But, kind of getting away from that Diggs play, I really like what Gabriel Davis did towards the end of the year last year.
Absolutely.
And sliding him in there and saving yourself $3,000, from Diggs. Over his last 8 games last year, he scored 5 touchdowns throughout the season. Any game that he had more than 4 targets, he had more than 60 yards receiving. For a $3,400 price tag, a big play receiver like Gabe Davis that's capable of breaking a game open, I think it could be worth a flyer this weekend.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you're playing Allen, I think, like you said, one way to be a little bit different is you can stack him with Diggs, but throw, Davis in there as well, because with how much they're going to throw the ball, it's certainly not going to, be a bad idea to have multiple receivers. And, you've got a few guys to choose from, obviously, like Cole Beasley, for example, but to be a little bit different, I think Gabe Davis is the way to go. And he's got a really high ceiling. Like Cole Beasley's not going to go off for, a 40-point game. He's a possession receiver. That's not what he does. Gabe Davis could. And to your point about, not knowing who to trust on the Pittsburgh side of things, on the last game, I used it as the opportunity to talk about what I look for in running backs. This game, I'll use as an opportunity to talk about what I look for in receivers. And it's really quite simple. I'm looking for target share, not necessarily number of targets, but target share. Even if a guy, is only getting, let's say, 6 or 7 targets, but that's a high target share in that offense. If they have to throw the ball more often, that's going to mean more targets. So targets are important. Target share is most important when you've got, 3 good receivers like they do in Pittsburgh. It can be hard to predict that, especially in week 1. It could be, this could just be like Deontay and Chase, really separate themselves this year and Juju kind of just falls back a little bit. That's entirely possible, but we don't know that week 1 for sure. So you kind of have to look at them and think to yourself, all right, which one of these guys is going to be most popular? Probably avoid him and, decide between the other 2. That's kind of, for GPPs especially, that's what I'm going to do. I'm looking more towards which of the 3 is least popular if I don't know which one to play, if I kind of have to play one, if you will, as a run back option, So that's where my head goes with that, my man. So let's see here. Next up on the list, we got the Chargers at the Washington football team. This is a spread that keeps moving around. Chargers were a 1-point favorite as of a couple days ago. Washington is now a 1.5-point favorite. We got a 45-point total, which is 11th highest out of the 16 games. And Chargers with the implied team total 21.75 points, good for 20th on the slate. And Washington 23.25, good for 15th on the slate. Similar, to like the Lions game. Not really going to be targeting either one of these teams this week. I think you could get a little bit sneaky here, by looking towards a Herbert stack or a Fitzmagic stack. But I'm just really afraid that this game is going to go under. It's already in the bottom half, almost bottom, 75th percentile here in projected points. And both defenses are good. I don't sleep on the Chargers defense at all. As long as they stay healthy, that's a good defense. I think that, Eckler and Gibson are going to be popular plays at running back this week and probably going to end up, top 5 or 6 in ownership. But they're definitely chalk that I'm going to fade, in this game because I don't think there's going to be a ton of points. And I'm going to fade them with high ownership for, guys that are in better situations, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is going to be a defensive football game. I think you're right on track with that. Washington's pass defense last year, giving up under 200 yards a game. I mean, we know that Herbert's fully capable. If I do anything with this one, just because Fitzmagic's beard is better than mine.
Then that's saying a lot, my friend. Don't take that lightly.
No, it's the truth. Like, that thing is straight up legit. So, it would be stacking him with the McLaurin. And then just running it back, with Keenan Allen or Austin Eckler, just because they're going to get some targets on the other side from Justin. So I'm staying away from this. I think the defenses are going to reign supreme in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, Eckler being questionable, if anything, I think if you were considering to play him, I think that him having a questionable tag would just make me want to play him even more because – if you already had that thought and already kind of wanted to push him in there, I think that tag is just going to make him a little less popular yet. So you just are going to gain, more leverage on the field. So I wouldn't let that tag, take you off of him if that was somebody you're already on. Next up, man, this is a fun one here. This might be, one of the top 2 games to watch this week.
Yeah,
we got Yeah, man. Cardinals at Titans. Titans are coming in right now, 3-point home favorite, 53.5-point over under, second highest on the slate. Cardinals are looking at 25.25 implied point total, good for 8th best on the slate. Titans are up to 28.25, second highest on the slate. So people are looking to this game to produce some points, man. And obviously in DFS, that's something that people are just going to flock towards. In this game, I definitely am going to be targeting, players from both teams. But again, just like the rest of the field, because I expect this game, to be one of the 2 or 3, most popular, I think it may be wise to just avoid fully stacking on this game to gain leverage. But of course, the secondary stacks, one-off plays are in the mix 100% there. If I had to, between the two teams, pick a stack here, I would go with Tannehill. I think Murray's going to be, top 3, top 4 in ownership at the quarterback position. If I did roll out Murray, though, I think I would honestly fade Nuke, especially in, huge field tournaments, because literally that's what everybody is going to do. Problem is, if you fade Nuke, you're kind of stuck with Rondell Moore, A.J. Green, Christian Kirk,
right,
to stack them with. So, it definitely pays to gain leverage, but sometimes you just have to make a stand and eat the chalk there as well, because it's kind of hard to rely on those options. Of course, if you hit, you're gaining a ton of leverage, so that's kind of the risk that you play. Me personally, if I were to be stacking Kyler, which isn't out of the question, but it seems unlikely at this point right now for me. But if I was, I'm going to stack him with Chase Edmonds. I like the upside here. I think, the upside actually is higher than, any option other than Nuke. And it could even be higher than Nuke just because of the leverage that you gain. But he's a pass catcher out of the backfield, of course. Gets you a little bit different, but gives you a very nice ceiling still with that combo. And, the Cards, should score some points. So both Murray and Chase will likely give you a good chance to secure all of the touchdowns, on their side of the ball there. So I think that's a clever way about going about it. Titans side of things, they're just absolutely loaded. Obviously, after acquiring Julio Jones, he's along with other studs, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown. So stacking Tannehill this week would be extremely easy. You could do so with any of those 3 guys, and better off probably picking 2 of those 3 guys if that's the route you're going to go. If you want to get a little bit different, maybe you take a shot with Fursker at tight end. He's definitely not going to be one of the top 5 highest owned tight ends, probably going to come in around the top 10 or so. So it's not like he's going to be completely contrarian, but he's going to be a little bit different in the stack and get you a little bit different at tight end. You probably need him to score a touchdown for that to work out to be a GPP winning lineup, but he should definitely differentiate you a little bit from the more popular plays for what's going to be a very popular game.
Yeah, Kyler and Nuke, I definitely think are going to be the stack in this one.
Yeah,
I'm right with you on that. There's going to be a ton of offense in this game. I just got this feeling like, Ryan Tannehill just isn't getting like the kind of respect that he deserves for being as good of a quarterback as he's been the last couple of years. Like, he has been exceptional.
Absolutely, man.
For Tennessee.
Very underrated still, which is almost impossible to say he's been like elite, he's
starting to gain a little bit of traction, and people are starting to kind of notice, and they're really going to take notice with Julio there this year. And for me, I'm right with you with stacking Tannehill. I think that is the way to be a little bit different. And you're going to see, you got A.J. Brown, you got Julio, you got El Tractorcito, like you said. There's so many ways for them to move the ball down the field. And I just think he outplays Kyler Murray a little bit in this one. And for $1,100 less, I think that's a pretty good trade-off. It'll help you out in another area by taking Tannehill over Murray. But this is going to be a fun game to watch and actually see what that point total ends up being this weekend.
And Tannehill honestly should be much lower owned than Murray anyways. And you could argue, obviously Tannehill can't run, so that's going to limit his ceiling. But either way, Tannehill could very easily outscore Kyler by an amount enough to make a difference, let alone for a price tag, drop as well. But the one thing to consider here, and this is the difference between, we talk about in Pittsburgh, they have a lot of options. Well, we say the same thing in Tennessee. We say, well, Tennessee has a lot of options. But the reason that Tennessee is such a better play is that target share is literally condensed. You know what I mean? Like, that the guys touching the ball are going to be Henry, Jones, and A.J. Brown.
Yep, that's it.
That's pretty much 90% of the targets in the touches right there. Pittsburgh has got 3 guys as well, but then they got Najee Harris. They got some dickhead Air Hebron.
Yeah, your favorite tight end, David.
Exactly. So it's different. It's not so much where you look at Tennessee and go, oh God, I don't know who to pick. well, you can just pick them both and it's fine. Or,
Yep.
you got 2 or 3 guys, put their names in a hat, pick out 2, and that's who you go with, and you're going to be okay. Little off topic here, but I don't want to miss Fabian's question. He's asking, it's Swift or Carson this week, Patrick, week 1. What do you think? If you had to pick one.
I'm actually going to probably touch on that in a little bit. So
okay, well then
hold tight, Fabian. You'll get your answer.
I'll answer then real quick, and I'll let you get to it. When you can for Fabian. But I mean, my shirt and my heart and everything says
yes.
to go with Swift, but I'm concerned about his health. First of all, I'm concerned that Lions offense is not very good to where if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm going to look out on the field and I'm going to go, okay, who do I not want to beat me? Oh, I don't want Swift to beat me.
That one guy in the backfield.
Yeah, exactly. So I could see him struggling this year, even though that offensive line is good. I mean, he might be able to have all right numbers running the ball, and he's going to catch the ball, and he's going to put up his. But we'll get to that Seattle game. But I like Carson, and I'm guessing you're going to go the same way. But we'll get there when we get there. Let's get on to the next game here. This is actually one that, man, I don't know. I might need to call myself, but yep. I like this Jets and Panthers game. And I guess I need to just wrap my head around entirely why, because you're looking at, Panthers are a home favorite, so that's awesome. 4-point favorite there. Over under a 45, so not great, but not terrible. 11th highest on the slate, so definitely not a game that should be highly targeted for DFS. Jets are looking to score implied total 20.5. Panthers have an implied total of 24.5. Jets are near the bottom, 23rd highest. Panthers are right in the middle with the 12th highest implied point total. I tell you, though, the Panthers, Patrick, very, very, very interested in them this week. I think that, they've got that kind of sneaky upside to where things fall just right from the players that, the Panthers, may take down a GPP for you. And I absolutely mean that. Now, of course, as always with DFS, that play does not come without risk. Means that, you've got to trust Sam Darnold, even though he does have somewhat of a revenge game here. So I don't even take that into account. A lot of times the revenge games, will be something that I will look at and I will put a little bit of weight into. And that was an afterthought. That was just something that I realized after I was already kind of targeting this game. And I went, oh, shit, well, that's just another reason for me to like this game. I mean, I've always liked Sam Darnold. He's finally got some weapons at his disposal now, something you really couldn't say a whole lot of in New York. He's got CMC. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Robbie Anderson. Hell, Terrace Marshall is there as well. These guys, for the most part, should come in pretty low owned. Obviously, CMC will not. Right. But the passing aspect of it will. They're definitely a little bit risky. If there's something I'm going to monitor here, and, my preferred stack is probably going to be like Darnold, CMC, and Robbie Anderson, just because I think DJ Moore will be a little bit chalkier even. So I think Robbie Anderson would help negate that. But
yeah,
I don't know, man.
They got a little bit of history in New York too, so they played together, and that makes a little bit of a difference,
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna have Darnold, CMC, and a pass catching stack this week for sure. I'm gonna have a couple of them.
Yeah, it's no surprise to me that you got a little bit of a chub for Sam Darnold, because I know that you're kind of into him a little bit last year. So
I've always liked Sam Darnold.
I know you have.
And now he's got guys to throw to.
Yeah, I'm with you though. That
makes me nervous,
man.
Now I'm nervous. If you agree with me, it may not be a good play.
No, I'm really excited to see what he can actually do, because I do put some weight into the revenge games, and I think he's got a lot to prove, and he's going to go and he's going to show out this weekend. I mean, like you said, number one, you got Christian McCaffrey in the background that you can drop the ball to. And the dude's just electric. I mean, it doesn't matter. Every time he touches the ball, it's what is he going to do with it? And
he's not that high price for Christian McCaffrey.
No. Yeah, if you're going to ever own him, this is the cheapest you're ever going to get him. So
in a good matchup.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you're right, man. With DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Terrence Marshall, who they're saying, is going to be really good.
Yeah, I love
a
him
good
too.
red zone receiver, 6'2" guy. He's a little bit on the smaller big side, but he's a big bodied guy. I'm gonna have some stacks with Sam and run CMC, and I'm probably gonna mix it up a little bit with Robbie, and DJ Moore. And the only guy, that you can really kind of run it back with, I think, would be Corey Davis, because he's going to get most of Zach Attack's, looks on the outside. So I think it'll be a fun game just to see what Sam Darnold does.
I know. It is, yeah, for sure. So let's see what Chris has. Corey Davis is the only play this week that Crowder is out. His chemistry with Zach Wilson looks great. I mean, I agree. I mean, if I'm going to play a Darno stack, especially if I'm going to, run two guys from the Carolina side, I mean, I'm always going to bring a guy back anyways.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it kind of has to be Corey Davis, and I think that's an example of I don't even care. I mean, he's not going to be, but I don't care if Corey Davis was going to be 50% owned this week. It's just what you have to do. There is really nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I was on Denzel Mims, off and on last year at times. So maybe I'll throw in, if I have 5 Darno stacks, maybe I'll have Mims as a run back on one of them just to be a little bit different. But I think you're already going to be different enough by having, the Darno stack that even if everyone else that has a Darno stack brings back Corey Davis, if that were to hit, the 3 to 5% ownership maybe that they have, you're fighting it out with those guys and the rest of your lineup. I'll take my chances, if that means I'm already in the top 5% just by having that stack. I don't mind an extremely chalky, Corey Davis. All right, now this next one, man, the total on this game just keeps going up. Seahawks are a 2.5-point road favorite heading into Indianapolis. This game's up to a 49-point over-under now. I believe it was at 47.5 last I checked a couple days ago. So this game is now the 4th highest on the slate. Seahawks have an implied point total 25 3/4, 7th highest on the slate. Colts are a little bit more in the middle, 23 1/4, good for 14th highest on the slate. I don't know, man. The more that this point total goes up, I think the more popular this game becomes, and the more I'm going to avoid the Seahawks here. As much as I just love watching Russ cook, I think that this has got to be a game where I just can't target either team, but I do like some one-offs. If I start to get the feeling that people are going to overlook, DK and Lockett, because they think that, the Colts defense is for real, then I'm going to consider some exposure here. But based on the fact that this over-under just keeps on rising, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think your best hope was, that people look at that Colts defense and they don't realize how weak of a schedule that they played last year and the role that played in making that defense look, I think, so much better than it really was. I'm not saying it was a bad defense, but it wasn't like that good. I'm not a big fan of playing, heavy road favorites. And, that's kind of where we sit here, with the Seahawks. I just think that there's other matchups that I prefer more. So sadly, I think I'm going to be shying away from Seahawks stacks. As far as the Colts, we're assuming right now, it looks pretty clear that Carson Wentz is going to suit up and be the quarterback there. So that makes the game much more interesting. That could be, as much as anything, the reason that the line is going up. More confidence we have in Wentz in quarterback instead of I can't even think of his first name, but Eason, whatever the hell that kid's name is.
I don't even know.
Exactly. Well, that's the point, I guess, right? But no matter who the quarterback was, but much more so with Wentz, I love Michael Pittman Jr. this week. Problem is, so does everybody else. Dude's going to be super popular, definitely top 10 owned wide receiver, could be a top 5 owned receiver because they got to throw the ball to somebody. And, their plethora of tight ends doesn't really get it done. But, he's going to be one of the, top wide receivers of the week. And if he's going to be that popular, I'm not going to completely fade him, but I'm going to be underweight on him. I think Jonathan Taylor is really the only other guy, that I would have some interest in. but I don't even know if I'm going to be super interested in him because I'm just going to have to assume that the Colts are going to be playing from behind, which probably means a little more likely that, Hines is in there, even though, Taylor's an okay, receiving back. I just am not sure that Taylor, if I want to spend up for $8K, for him, fifth highest running back on the slate. I think if I'm going to spend that money on a running back, there's plenty of other options that I like more. And there's options that are like $1,500 less that I like more than him. So I don't even know that I will use him, really to be any different.
Yeah, I'm staying away from Metcalf, from Lockett, from Wilson. As great as Russ Wilson was the first half of the season last year, he was equally as bad in the second half. So
probably worse, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, until I can see him get back on track and start putting up some numbers like he did in the first half of the season, I'm just going to stay away from those guys just because it's too inconsistent for me. Back.
The one thing I'll say about that, though, they do have a new offensive coordinator, and he has publicly gone out of his way to say he wants to play high up-tempo. So it is entirely possible that you could just be getting in a week or two early with Russ. And if you have Russ, it's very similar to the Tennessee story where their target share is between two motherfuckers. They're throwing the ball to DK and they're throwing the ball to Lockett, and that's about it. So stacking, if you're going to play them, you need to stack them all three together, and they're either going to have a big day or they're not. But anyways, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I mean, you're right. It's the same scenario.
Well, no shit. Of course I'm right.
I know. That's why you're here, Dave. Right? Remember the brains, the beauty. That's what we talked about.
That's what we got.
Okay. So as long as we're on the same page, we will continue.
Same page, brother.
Yeah. So back to the question earlier about Swift or Carson. I'm on the Carson board. I'm on that train this weekend. A lot of the things that I've kind of read allude to, Pete Carroll wanting to try to get more into a run-involved offense and try to get Carson to tote the rock a little bit more. Indy was
completely contradicted what I said because I have seen the exact opposite. So one of us will be right and one of us will be wrong.
There we go.
But yeah, we'll see. I mean, yes, he does love to run the ball. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball, but the offensive coordinator has gone out of his way to say they are going to play up tempo. Obviously, it's Pete Carroll's team, not the offensive coordinator's team, but I can't imagine that he would have been hired and he's allowed to just speak freely about it if there isn't some truth to that.
Okay.
Because we can see what Russ can do. When they let Russ loose, he goes to town. I mean, the first half of last year, dude was MVP of the league.
Oh, he was, absolutely.
And then the second half of the year, he was like, Lions territory quarterback.
Yeah,
they took the ball right out of his hands.
Yeah, he was not good. But either way, like I said, Chris Carson for me, I think is going to be the play. $5,900 price tag, RB1, fully capable of toting the ball 15 to 20 times a game. In 2018, 2019, not injury riddled seasons, almost 250 carries a year. And he put in some work. He had some really solid games, and he's a guy that they can just turn around and hand the ball to. So if I'm picking Swift or Carson, even based on the matchup and the fact that Seattle can spread the ball out, and that run game will help create, passing as well. I'd play Carson over Swift this week. And like I said, $5,900 for an RB1 in a good offense, I think is pretty solid. So,
yeah. And, not to beat a dead horse here, but you're going to hear me say this all the time, especially this week, but you're getting leverage by playing Carson because people that are attacking this game are not attacking it for Chris Carson. They're attacking it for Russell Wilson and his pass catchers. So even if they have big games, if they get inside the 5 and they start dumping the ball up to Carson and Carson runs 2 of them in, he just completely depletes the upside of those passing games. So Russ could go for 400 yards. Lockett and Metcalf could each have 100. And here comes Chris Carson with 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, making it, the play of the game here. So let's get to Mark's question here. Mark's asking, Tyson Williams or Myles Gaskin and PPR for flex, to me, that's a no-brainer. I don't know what kind of a role exactly Tyson Williams is going to have. I guess week 1, he's running back 1. But I don't know exactly what he's going to look like in that offense. I could see them leaning more on Lamar, leaning more on, their pass catchers. I know that Myles Gaskin is, RB1 in Miami. I know they got a tough matchup, but I don't care. He's a 3-down back. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. I know Gaskin is going to get the volume for sure. I don't know what I'm going to get from Tyson Williams. So it's a no-brainer for Gaskin.
Agree 100%. It's about volume, right, Dave?
At the running back position, it is. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. All right, next on the list, we got Vikings, 3-point road favorites heading to Cincinnati. We got a 47-point over-under here, good for 7th highest on the slate. Vikings have a 25-point implied total, good for 9th highest on the slate. And Bengals are way down at 22, 19th best on the slate. Patrick, why don't you go ahead and lead the way on this one, my man?
I like Joe Mixon. This game for me is going to be a Joe Mixon type game. Burrow getting back, or Burrows, or however the hell you pronounce his last name.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you, buddy.
But yeah, Burrow, I think, he's gonna lean a little bit more, on Mixon, dump the ball off to him, avoid having to stand in that pocket too long, at least till he gets his legs back underneath him. I mean, the dude had a horrific injury last year.
He did, and he was having a great season, I thought.
Yeah, he came out of the gate just swinging, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. So, once he shakes the cobwebs off, you're going to see the ball move down the field a whole lot more. You still might, but I just think he's going to lean on Mixon a little bit. Another really good value for an RB1, $6,200.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes back to the same Pittsburgh thing for me. With Cincinnati, you got Boyd, you got Higgins, you got Chase, who we don't even know what he can do yet.
We do know that he finds the shape of an NFL football to be unique.
Right.
What have you been doing for the last 2 years, Chase?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No doubt. But who's going to get the target share? You just don't know. So for me, Mixon is the play in that game. As far as the Vikings go, Cook is
awesome.
Cook, he's one of maybe 2 or 3 guys on a weekly basis that it doesn't really matter what you pay for him. You put him in your lineup and you're going to get productivity out of it.
Yeah.
And
75% of the time he won't disappoint you. And when he does, fucking deal with it,
And on the Vikings side, for receivers, Jefferson and Thielen, Cousins knows how to get both those guys the ball. It's the same thing we talked about with Tannehill, and Russ. You've got 2 guys you're throwing the ball to. You know who's going to get it. So
especially with Irv Smith out. Oh
yeah, I forgot about Irv Smith.
You really got 3 guys that are touching the ball in that offense,
right? So yeah, that's it for me, man. Joe Mixon's my play in that game. I don't know if I'm going to pay for Dalvin, second highest, price tag this week, but Mixon is where I'm rolling my dice.
Well, let me talk about my thoughts on the game, and then I'm going to use this as a perfect opportunity. This is the one I've been waiting for. I want to talk about what I'm looking for in quarterbacks. But this is a game not going to be targeting either team, but I do like some one-off pieces. Vikings being a road favorite doesn't get me super excited, but I think it's a decent matchup for both teams. Like we said, Dalvin is obviously in play every single week. I don't care who he's playing. I don't care what's going on. As long as he's healthy, he is in my player pool. Doesn't mean I'm going to always, play him or at a high volume, but he's definitely a consideration every single week. This week, no different. He's going to be a top 5 owned running back. In this matchup, though, this is a time where I don't need to get cute. I'm going to eat that chalk. I am going to eat the chalk with Dalvin Cook, and I'm going to be happy about it. Win, lose, or draw, I'm planting my flag there. Justin Jefferson, that's another guy that I would consider for sure as even a one-off, but, you've got a lot of stacking opportunities in this game, so not hard to find a guy to stack with him. It's just a matter of picking the right one. Vikings, are projected to score some points this week. So, they definitely have some pieces you need to think about. Now, for the Bengals, as much as I love Joe Burrow, like we said, he's coming off a major injury. And to be quite honest, I'm afraid to play him. I think he played, 3 snaps in the preseason?
Yeah.
Obviously, they do that to protect him, but they're also, not getting him the reps that make me comfortable. They have a great running back. We talked about, you said Joe Mixon, they're going to hand the ball off to him. And in a perfect world, they keep the game close enough that they can keep on doing that. And, I think that's what will happen, honestly. Mixon, is a great value at running back. I just worry that in this game, his upside is not high enough to win you a GPP, so he definitely can't be your running back 1 in your lineup. He's got to be your RB2, or your flex, just because I'm not sure the upside is there for him to, win you a GPP. As far as the passing game goes, again, I don't know who you can trust. You can certainly play T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd is probably my favorite. Jamar Chase I'm staying away from, at least for now. If I'm wrong, then so be it. But they all provide, upside. They're just way too volatile for my liking. Higgins is only 4,700 this week, so I think he's going to be a top 5 owned receiver. That's why that I lean, going towards Boyd personally. I honestly think Boyd's a better receiver anyways. Boyd's going to be in the slot. I think he's going to get more targets out of there. I'm definitely not going to be playing a chalky wide receiver like Higgins with, so many question marks surrounding his target share. I think that it's an interesting game, but not one that I want to, fully go in on and, stack. Just not what I'm thinking there, man. So let's get here to the next one. This is another really good, really interesting game that I'm interested in. We've got Falcons home favorite, 3.5 points over the Eagles, 48.5 point over under here. So 5th highest projected scoring game of the week. Got the Eagles coming in with an implied point total of 22.5. Falcons sitting at a 26 point implied total. So that's 6th best on the slate. So we should see some action here. I think, like I said, fun game to watch. I'm definitely targeting both of these teams. Really like the idea of a Falcons game stack this week. I especially like it when Matt Ryan is looking like he's going to be outside of the top 10 in quarterback ownership. He's the 11th most expensive quarterback on the slate, so I think you can save some money with him at the quarterback spot. You got great stacking options. You got Ridley, of course. You got Kyle Pitts. We'll see what he can do. Mike Davis is, good out of the backfield catching the ball. You got Russell Gage as well if you want to get a little bit different. Other side of the ball, you got Jalen Hurts. Finished the year as one of the best, DFS quarterbacks once he took over at the end of the season there. And he's added one of the best pass catchers from the draft to his team, Devontae Smith. If you end up going Hurts, you could run him out there naked just because, he is definitely more of a runner than a passer. But he does have some guys to throw the ball to. I said Devontae Smith. He's got Jalen Reagor. He's got Goddard out there. If you really want to go fucking crazy, if you're in a super deep, huge field tournament, you could try Zach Ertz if you wanted. I wouldn't suggest it, but you could. I would stack Hurts with one of those guys, especially in the GPP, in my opinion. But lots of ways to build game stacks across this game. It's probably going to be relatively popular, so you will want to be careful. But it's definitely one you can get to. And see, Chris has got a question here real quick. Looks like it applies. Says, I was going to flex Hunt or Devontae Smith, but think I'll go with Corey Davis. Got to wait to see how much Smith pans out. What do you guys think? What do you think on that question there for Chris, Patrick?
Atlanta's secondary was terrible last year. I don't know exactly what they did to try to upgrade or improve that. Outside of Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor doesn't do anything for me. He really didn't.
I like Jalen Reagor,
but he just didn't do it for me last year. And who else is there for Hurts to throw the ball to? And I mean, this leads right into kind of where I was going, anyways. Is I'm thinking that my play is going to be an Atlanta stack here with Ridley. And I really like Mike Davis this week, another RB1 for $5,400, a pass-catching running back. And Matt Ryan's going to use him. So when you go to run it back, who else is there to really run it back with? I mean, Devontae Smith, he was an okay college football player. I mean, do we really think that he's the guy in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's a question.
I thought you were being serious.
No, he's going to be the guy in Philly. That's who Jalen Hurts is going to get the ball to. So
I thought we were going to have like an off-air discussion. I was like thinking about, do I need to call HR before we had this conversation?
Okay. For me, it's Devontae Smith. He's going to get the target share from Hurts when he's throwing the ball. He's an electric receiver. He's going to come out and he's going to get the ball, and they're going to move it down the field with him. So it's Smith for me on that question.
All right. Well, let's move on here. Let's get to a game that it feels like the Lions should be playing in here. Jaguars and Texans. We've got the Jaguars, probably the only time in the season they're going to be a road favorite. 3.5 points, in fact. This game's actually got a sneaky over-under of 46, so that's 9th best on the slate. So that's an average score. That's really not too bad. Jags are 10th in implied point total, 24.75. Texans coming in at 21st, 21.25. I think that if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence making his NFL debut, I'm not sure you could pay people to watch this game, Patrick.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that.
I mean, I'm a little surprised to see, the total in the middle of the pack, but, with these two defenses, I guess it does make some sense. I'm definitely not targeting either team in this game, but I'll be keeping an eye on the ownership of James Robinson for sure. One of the rookie darlings of the NFL last season, came out of nowhere to be one of the best and most consistent backs in the league. His role was set to be greatly diminished by Travis Etienne, but guess what? He's not playing this year. So
he gone.
So Carlos Hyde is the only guy, standing in his
he's
way.
He's still in the league. What is he, like 63 now?
Carlos Hyde's an Urban Meyer guy, so that scares me, man. That does scare me. Outside of, Marvin Jones, who is, us Lions fans know is good for like 1, maybe 2 massive games a year, I think that I am not touching anybody else in this game.
Yep. James Robinson is the only guy to even consider in this one. And at another pretty decent price tag, $6,400. And Houston's run defense is really the only team in the NFL that you could actually argue may have been worse than the Lions' run defense last year.
Oh, boy.
They gave up over 3,000 total yards of running backs last year, over 20 touchdowns. Like, they're brutal. and J-Rob is going to get some work because I think Meyer's going to try to do whatever he can to help the young gun out and give Goldilocks a chance to succeed right out of the gate. So I think J-Rob's the only play. He's going to get the touches to help ease that offense up a little bit. So,
all right, man, let's move it along here. We got Packers, 3.5-point road favorites. I guess technically at the Saints, they're not playing in New Orleans. This game's got a 49.5-point over-under. It's good for 3rd highest on the slate. Packers implied point total 26.5, 5th highest, and the Saints are coming in at 23, 16th highest there. Again, not a game that I'm targeting for game stacks, but I definitely have interest in secondary stacks and one-off plays here. With Green Bay, I'm definitely thinking some Aaron Jones is going to work well in GPPs. On paper, he's got a tough matchup here against the Saints run D, but I like that for a couple reasons. First of all, last year's defensive numbers mean shit to me, and I think that people might fade Jones based on that alone. Second, the Saints are going to be missing some guys up front, so even if the Saints are going to have a good run defense this year, it's definitely not going to be so good in week 1. Obviously, Devontae Adams is always in play, which gets me over to the Saints, and the guy I would stack with Adams, Marquez Callaway. Callaway is going to be super chalky in GPP, so be aware of that. But there's not a lot of guys in New Orleans right now to catch the ball, so he's kind of the obvious stack there with Adams. I'm going to have some Callaway shares, but I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be underweight on him just because I'm just for leverage. We haven't really seen him outside of the preseason, obviously. So I don't know what I'm getting with him. A super chalky guy that is also volatile. I will pass there.
Yep, and you hit it right on the head, I think, with this game too. It's, if you're going to run a stack out there, then the no-brainer is obviously Rodgers. and Adams. Probably, one of the few sure things that we talk about on a weekly basis. And Callaway at $3,400 and being the number one wide receiver for the Saints. He did have a little bit of chemistry with Winston during the preseason, had a pretty good game. The one that I watched anyways. Jameis is going to have to sling the ball to somebody, and we know Jameis likes to sling the ball. Yeah. For $3,400, I mean, that's a pretty good price tag for a guy that I think is going to see a pretty decent target share. So
problem is everyone's going to own him.
Yep.
All right, man. Chiefs and Browns. We got the Chiefs as a 5.5-point home favorite. Highest over-under on the slate at 54.5. Browns have a 24.5-point implied point total, good for 11th best. Chiefs are number one at 30. I think this is going to be the game that everyone and their mom is in on, man. Question is, will it be chalk that you must eat, or is a sharp play here going to be go underweight on this game, or maybe even fade it? That's something I think that, anyone that is playing DFS at a serious level is going to have to decide right out the gate this week before you make lineups. For me, I find great value in far less popular games to the point where I will definitely be underweight on this game. I'm not going to have any game stacks. I don't think. I mean, something could happen where I play some Mahomes, but I doubt it. I'm going to have some small exposure to secondary stacks. Kansas City, of course, Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, prime plays. I don't think I have to tell anybody that. Gain some leverage, though. I think, CEH is the way to go here. Chiefs are likely to point up some points, obviously, with their, play point total top of the league. Who's to say CEH won't be part of those scores on the ground or even through the air? For the Browns, I think you can play it a lot of different ways here. Just kind of depends on how you think the game script is going to go. If it's close and they're playing ahead, let's say, Chubb is your option. He'd be a great play if that were to be the case. Theoretically, if they blow the Chiefs out, which I know isn't very likely, but if they're chasing the Chiefs all game long, obviously passing game, is fully in effect here. OBJ, Landry, Hunt, even Austin Hooper are all viable plays in that scenario. Again, this is the main game you're going to have to decide on this week, I think. Choosing correctly is probably going to be the difference between, having a winning or a losing week in GPPs.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to stay away from this one. I might have some fun with a couple cheap lineups just to run them out there with a Mahomes Kelsey stack. And then I might even have some more fun and throw Hill in there too and run it back with an Odell and then see if I can even roster a whole lineup after getting, those four guys in there. But there's going to be a lot of points in this one. Yeah. I think that Cleveland's going to have to play catch up. So Mayfield's going to have to throw the ball. And Odell's healthy. So we hope. So he becomes a primary target in Cleveland. A lot of points, high scoring game. But I'm probably not going to do a whole lot with it.
Yeah, I don't think I am either, man. All right, we got a couple dumpster fires here at the last here. So we can get through these pretty quick. I'm imagining we got Patriots 3.5-point home favorites against the Dolphins. 43.5-point implied total, good for second to last on the slate. Dolphins have a 20-point implied point total, 24th out of 26 teams, and the Patriots are sitting at 23.5, right in the middle of the pack. They're 13th. I'm having a tough time, honestly, getting a good read on this game. That is one of the reasons I'm not really targeting this game. I can definitely see it turning into something like a 13-10 just DFS nightmare where just nobody's worth rostering. And, sadly, I think of all the game scenarios, that one is most likely. I cannot name a player from this game that I'm even somewhat comfortable that they could get a ceiling game in. I just don't think that I will even have any secondary stacks or one-offs. I plan to steer clear of this game.
Yeah, I am not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. If I play anything from this game, it's going to be the Miami Dolphins defense against the rookie quarterback.
I agree. I agree 100%.
And, even New England's defense against Tua, because I'm not that confident in Tua Tagovailoa or whatever the heck his last name is.
I'm just not sure I want to pay up for defense. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to do. I'm not saying that it's always a terrible idea, but
Yeah.
Usually middle of the road, lower end defenses is the way to go. Yeah, not at the top and not at the bottom.
No, and Miami is kind of towards the top this week. I think 2,900 to pay up for Miami. But they were pretty sneaky good against the pass last year, top 10 in almost every defensive passing category. So
yeah, that's a great defense.
I think that they can
they have to score you a touchdown prior to make it worth your while, which is possible. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, that's good. That's it for me. Miami's D.
Oh boy. Well, hey, listen, don't be talking about D's like that. That's Miami's defense.
Their defense. I saw that big smile on your face.
Oh man, talking about D's, and it's like, it's getting hot in here, Patrick. Somebody turn on the air.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Last up here, we got Broncos as a 3-point road favorite going to New York to face the Giants. Dead last in over/under here. We got a 42-point total. Giants are coming in 19.5 points, only better than our Detroit Lions. And Broncos are sitting at 22.5 points. Like I said, man, back-to-back dud games, Patrick, to round out, our first week back live. But you know what? At least there's plays to be had here, I think. So even if I won't be stacking, the game, I think there's some things to look at here. For the Broncos, I think Jerry Jeudy is a fantastic play. Comes in very reasonable, $4,800 salary, and I could definitely see him being a one-off. Giants, they do not have a single player that I can trust. I feel like, they've got some talent, but I don't trust them. I love Saquon Barkley. Obviously, we know he's coming off a major injury. It's going up against a decent defense. Barkley simply could do Barkley things and be a stud this week. At $7,800, though, I can find cheaper plays that I like a lot more. Like I said, Giants are absolutely loaded, with receiving options, but I just can't say that I trust one. And I certainly can't say I trust the guy throwing the ball to him.
Correct. Yeah, I have zero interest in this game. If I'm doing anything, I'm betting the money line on the Giants at home.
All right, Patrick. Well, I tell you what we're going to do here is a little bit different than last year as far as our competition. We talked about this a little bit before the show. What we're going to do is we're going to find a really cheap 20 max, and we're going to each put in our 20 lineups. And we're just going to see, of the 40 lineups, which is the best. So, because in the past, we just have been doing like a small tournament. We're mostly putting a cash lineup in. And most of what we talk about here is GPP kind of stuff. So, we talked about it for the show, and we're going to pick one of those stupid little 10-cent, $2 to max enter dime times. We're going to get in the same one. I'm going to put my 20 in. You're going to put your 20 in. And may the best one contest win. And whoever that is, that's whose glorious voice you're going to hear next week.
Mine.
Yeah, not his. All right, Patrick, my man, it's been great getting back with you. We spent an hour running our mouth about grown men playing with balls, so that's been fucking fantastic. I love it.
Yes.
I appreciate everyone for all their questions. We definitely had a nice handful of questions, and I absolutely love getting those sprinkled in because those are things that Patrick and I have not discussed, things that we maybe haven't even thought about. So helps us, give a different perspective. And we love obviously answering, people's questions as well. So we appreciate those, definitely keep those coming in the future. But Patrick, I look forward to kicking your ass, my friend. And we will see you and we will see everybody else next week.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Good luck.